Thank you.
All right, I will get started. So as Chris said, my name is Mariel Marchand. I'm the power supply planner at Cape Light Compact. And Brianna Kane is also here tonight. She's the residential and commercial program manager at Cape Light Compact. So if there are any energy efficiency questions that come up when we get to Q&A, she is here if needed. So I just wanted to start with a quick background on who Cape Light Compact is. I assume that most of us here know, but always good to have a quick refresher. So Cape Light Compact is a public body or a joint powers entity governed by a board of officials who are appointed by each of our member entities. And those member entities are the 21 towns of the Cape and the Vineyard and Dukes County. Cape Light Compact was the first municipal aggregator in the United States, the first joint powers entity in Massachusetts, and we're the only non-utility energy efficiency program administrator. And so as an energy efficiency program administrator, CLC is the Mass Save sponsor for Cape Cod and Martha's Vineyard. And so Cape Light Compact really serves three main purposes, one of which is our power supply program, which is what I'm here to talk to you about tonight. We go out to bid and negotiate a competitive electric supply agreement to provide a power supply program to residents and businesses on the Cape and the Vineyard. Through our energy efficiency programs, we offer home energy assessments, rebates, and incentives for residents and businesses who own or rent to make upgrades to make their space more energy efficient. And thirdly, but also very important, is our consumer advocacy. We advocate at the state level on behalf of ratepayers on the Cape and the Vineyard to ensure that their interests are represented. And so, for example, Cape Light Compact currently is participating in dockets at the DPU, such as the Eversource rate case, grid modernization, and a number of others. So power supply, what are we talking about when we say power supply? And so really there are two different buckets of charges that we all see on our Eversource electric bill on the Cape and the Vineyard. And so those two buckets are the supply and delivery. And so Eversource, as we know, is the distribution company. They own the poles and the wires. They're responsible for delivering the power to our homes. And so they set those delivery charges that are listed on our bill. And those charges are approved by the DPU. And then on the supply side, as a result of the 1997 Restructuring Act, customers in Massachusetts have the ability to choose their supplier. And so Cape Light Compact offers a power supply program through our municipal aggregation. And then Eversource has a basic service supply product that customers can receive. And then there are also a number of competitive suppliers that customers can shop around for rates. So if you are on Cape Light Compact's supply, you'd see on your bill, the example bill here on the slide is what you would see. It says your supplier is NextEra Energy Services, billing for Cape Light Compact. So how does Cape Light Compact select its competitive supplier? And so essentially, our chief procurement officer issues a competitive request for proposals to all licensed suppliers. In the meantime, or kind of, I guess, even before that, we engage an independent consultant who has expertise in the energy market to help us prepare that RFP, assess market conditions, and then review and analyze responses to the RFP as they come in. The compact also works with its legal counsel to review those responses that are coming in particular, really reviewing the terms and conditions of the competitive electric supply agreement. And throughout this process, the chief procurement officer and the power supply planner work with several board members that participate in the entire process through the drafting of the RFP, receiving bids, analyzing bids. We have board members that are very involved in that process and are kind of with us each step of the way. And in addition to that, the board discusses key policy decisions, such as the renewable content that we would like to see in our supply going forward, things like PPAs, power purchase agreements. And we do that with the board before the procurement process, during the procurement process, and then periodically throughout the contract term to ensure that the board members understand what is in our power supply mix and to make sure that we're all still on the same page. So I will now go over a quick overview of our power supply program, and then I'll go into a lot more detail. So currently we have contracted with NextEra Energy Services. That contract has been extended through the end of 2026. Our power supply program offers competitive electric prices and has strong terms and conditions that protect our customers. So customers can opt out at any time with no termination fee. This is unlike a competitive electric supply agreement that a customer might sign with a competitive supplier. And our rates change every 6 months for residential and small commercial customers. So that's always the case. Customers can't be enrolled in something a rate that will become a variable rate given certain market conditions. And so we have three power supply offerings. We have our standard product, CLC Local Green 50 and CLC Local Green 100. So I'm going to start by discussing our standard product, which is 100% renewable. It gets to 100% renewable by matching customers' annual usage above the state requirements with voluntary renewable energy credits. And those voluntary renewable energy credits are Earth-era RECs. So they're RECs that are generated by renewable projects in the United States, but outside of New England. And the funds that we use to purchase those RECs are deposited into a trust called the Earth-era Renewable Energy Trust, which I will go into a bit more detail about in a few slides. And so in addition to being to matching customers' usage with voluntary RECs, we also are matching our customers' usage above the Massachusetts Class 1 Renewable Portfolio Standard with an additional 1% of Class 1 RECs. And those are RECs that are generated by renewable energy facilities that are located in New England or just outside of New England, but putting their power onto the grid in New England. So in addition to the REC piece, our power supply product also includes a CLC signed a power purchase agreement with Farmington Solar, which is a solar facility located in Maine. It's a 77 megawatt facility. We signed a PPA for just a slice of 5 megawatts of that for energy and RECs. So we're receiving the energy and RECs from that 5 megawatts. That 5 megawatts generates approximately just under 9,000 megawatt hours annually. And that contract is a fixed price 20-year contract. And in addition to Farmington, we recently, just in October, signed a memorandum of understanding with Commonwealth Wind to work towards signing a power purchase agreement for energy and RECs from the Commonwealth Wind project, which I think at this point is slated to come online hopefully in 2028. So that would be a really exciting opportunity for our customers to be able to get energy and RECs from the offshore wind that's coming in on the Cape. And so to go into more details on our standard product, and I'm happy to answer more questions. I'm going to go through this quickly because it's pretty detailed. But essentially on the left in the pie chart, you can see the 51.3% of required resources. So these are portfolio standards that are set by the state that we're required to purchase renewable energy certificates or other certificates to meet. And then on the left-hand side of that pie chart, you can see the 48.7% of voluntary RECs that CLC is retiring on behalf of our customers to get to 100% renewable. And then on the right-hand side, just a lot more detailed, you can see each of those state requirements that are included in the requirement to get to 100% renewable. And then you can also see the 1% of voluntary class 1 RECs that we're matching and the 47.7% of Earth Era RECs. So to go into Earth Era RECs and the Earth Era Trust in a little bit more detail, you can see on the left side of this slide, the Earth Era RECs that we've retired on behalf of compact customers for 2020 and 2021, just as examples. And so you can see that the majority of these RECs are sourced from wind facilities that are located in Texas. And then on the right side of the slide, we have a pie chart showing where the funds that have gone into the Earth Era Trust have been dispersed. So essentially, the funds from the purchase of the Earth Era RECs are deposited into this Earth Era Renewable Energy Trust, and those funds are used to fund new renewable energy projects. And NextEra, our supplier, has made a commitment to direct those funds to projects in New England to the extent possible. So as you can see here, of the 18.1 million that has gone into the fund through 2021, 57% of that has been dispersed to solar projects in New England, and so has helped get those projects built. 3% has gone to solar outside of New England, and then we do have a pretty large percentage, 40%, that has not yet been dispersed, and that's just because we are waiting on appropriate projects that are located within New England to fund, and that has been more challenging this year given supply chain constraints and just the overall interconnection issues that are currently present in New England. So CLC local green options. So in addition to our standard offering, we offer 2 local green options. And these options support renewable energy development in New England. And they do that by matching customers' annual usage above the Massachusetts Class 1 renewable portfolio standard with additional Class 1 RECs. So we either match usage to get to 50% or 100% with Class 1 RECs. And because Class 1 RECs are significantly more expensive than something like a voluntary Earth Era REC, there is a premium on this rate. The 50% option is an additional 1.3 cents per kilowatt hour, and the 100% option is an additional 3.6 cents per kilowatt hour. That premium is tax deductible on a federal tax return if you're itemizing your deductions. And so I know that the main purpose was to talk about renewables, but I think especially with what's going on right now in the world, and as Chris mentioned, it's an interesting time to be doing this, but things are very expensive. Energy is expensive, and I think it's important to talk about what our rates are and why rates are what they are. And so as you can see on the slide here, we just recently set our rate for our December through June term. It's 21.699 cents. It's about 4 cents below the Eversource basic service rate, but the rates are high. And that's really driven by the system mix in New England. And so where the power is being generated, what type of fuel those generators are using. And as you can see here, kind of a little bit past halfway down this chart that hopefully isn't too small to read, the grid in New England really relies on natural gas generation, followed by nuclear. And what is driving the winter prices is that since 45% of the electricity the electricity generation in New England comes from natural gas fired power plants, and natural gas prices in New England have increased nearly 300% since last year. We're seeing very high wholesale electric market prices. And really what's driving the natural gas price increase is the conflict in Ukraine, which is contributing to a global increase in natural gas prices, as Europe is importing higher quantities of liquefied natural gas in order to meet their demand for the winter. And so essentially, as Russia has slowed or shut down the flow of natural gas to Europe, Europe is importing more LNG. We're somewhat unique here in New England in that we rely on importing LNG in the event of a cold snap, where natural gas constrained in New England. There's only a limited amount of pipeline capacity that can get natural gas into New England. So if there is a prolonged cold snap, natural gas goes to heating customers first. And so it becomes more and more expensive to generate electricity. And so in addition to those global factors, there are some factors within the United States that are driving prices. The demand for natural gas for power generation has increased in the past few years as other fuel sources are retired. And we're seeing this really pronounced with coal. In the past, when natural gas prices would rise, coal would essentially be in the money. It would come online and meet that rising demand. Now, I think it's generally a good thing that coal generators have been retired. Nuclear generators like Pilgrim have been retired, but it is contributing to prices, as the price of natural gas was once more elastic than it is now, or the demand, I guess. Now, as we're seeing demand rise, as prices rise, demand for natural gas stays the same. And so I think one positive and something that we're looking forward to is the renewables coming online in New England that will make us less reliant on natural gas and therefore less susceptible to global supply and demand pressures on prices. But I do think we have a few years before really the big renewables like the offshore wind are online. And so given these high rates, we have been stressing the importance of reducing kilowatt hour usage to help customers combat those high bills. We'd really like to encourage customers to take advantage of the Compact's energy efficiency programs. Whether you rent or own, the first step is to have a home energy assessment. And then we're also encouraging customers to see if they are eligible for any of the income eligible resources. So there's fuel assistance. Eversource has an electric discount rate that is 36% off of a total bill. Eversource also has programs for managing past due electric bills, and National Grid has a natural gas discount rate. So these are all good options for customers that are facing those high prices this winter. We have resources on our website, all of this information on our website as well. So I think that is it.
Well, Mariel, thanks very much for that presentation. That was fantastic. Lots of great detail on not only why our prices are what they are today, but what the opportunities are for the future. And so, you know, I think that hopefully folks attending tonight got a good understanding of what the power supply program offers, and again, what it can do to perhaps take advantage of offshore wind in the future. So open it up for questions to anybody in the audience.
This is David Dow. I live in Falmouth, and there's been a lot of controversy about bringing the offshore wind energy on shore. and having a connection to the regional grid. I was wondering how much that influences the prices that we have to pay for, we'll have to pay in the future for this renewable source of energy.
That is a good question, and I'm not sure I'm an expert on that. But part of my understanding, at least, is that the majority of this capacity that's being built offshore at the moment has already been contracted with the electric distribution companies at a PPA price that I think rises each year, but it's a set price and kind of a known quantity at least. I think that the price compared to what we're seeing in the market for this winter is pretty good. But I'm not, it's always hard to know what things are going to look like in 20 years, and these are long contracts. But I guess I'm not sure how the actual like infrastructure building coming into Falmouth is playing into that price.
David, I'll try to answer that a little bit. So some of the infrastructure reinforcement costs will be borne directly by ratepayers through their transmission rates, distribution rates that are on our bill on the delivery services side, sort of opposite from the power supply side that Mariel has been talking about tonight. But also the offshore wind developers are paying a substantial amount of infrastructure costs to get it all the way to the substation. And so that is reflected in their firm pricing that they've already established with the utilities as Mariel described. So we'll see the costs. I don't know what they are. I don't think they'll be insignificant, but I think relative to some of the other alternatives of running power lines, obviously through northern New England, that's got an expense as well. Hope that helps. Other questions for Mariel?
This is Susan Starkey. Chris, I've got a comment, question. So Mariel, this is really helpful, and I appreciate you bringing up the income eligible information, because your organization has been generous enough to grant my group FCEN, the Faith Communities Environmental Network, a $32,000 grant so that we can help residents in Falmouth and Barnstable to get assessed about whether or not they're income eligible as they're signing up for home energy audits. But I wonder if you have anything else to bring up about other help that might be coming from the federal IRA bill or anything else. Do you foresee any additional help coming to folks of moderate or lower income? And is there anything else that you want to say about that to this group?
Mariel, I'm happy to tag in for that one. Hi, Susan. How are you? It's Brianna Kane.
Hi, Brianna.
Hi. So the program sponsors of Mass Save still do not have any additional information on how the infrastructure restructuring funds will be coming down. We are able to share some FAQs with people here today, and we have them posted on our Mass Save website. I will drop that link in the chat here. So hopefully if there are any questions that people have, they can go to that link. We will update that as we receive more information as sponsors. But right now we have no idea when the state funding would be coming in anything beyond that at this point in time. And then there was a second part of your question, and I just would ask you to restate it.
I just wondered if there's anything else about the income eligibility that you would want this group to know about, because we could all be promoting that, not just to our faith communities, but to other groups.
Absolutely. So we have very two different programs. We have an income eligible program, which is 60% or under of state median income, and that qualifies people for fuel assistance. And many people know about those program offerings, but it's always a great thing because if it's not you, it could be your neighbor or grandparent, someone who may qualify for these benefits. And to Mariel's slide where she spoke about the fuel assistance, discount electric rates, if someone heats with natural gas, also a natural gas discount rate, those are really beneficial for customers to take advantage of. But we actually do have a moderate income program offering that the sponsors have, and our information, I will also share that as well. But in general, our Mass Save website, which was just recently updated, is very helpful with income based questions, but general program information, whether someone is a residential or a commercial customer. I'm going to drop the link in for the income based offers into the chat as well, so people have them. And one of the things I'd like to share and kind of point out is there is a moderate income offering that is available, and it's called the Enhanced Residential Incentive, and that's something that people should look at very closely. This is 61 to 80% of state median income. And when you look at these numbers, this demographic may likely not have applied for any financial assistance or aid prior. But some of the numbers for people to hear, if you make between $40,952 and $54,601 for a one-person household, you would qualify for that enhanced residential offering. Additionally, a four-person household needs to make between $78,752 and $105,001. So there are some pretty big ranges of income that actually, when you're talking about the Cape and the Vineyard, customers may qualify. You're talking about entry-level teachers, our public safety workforce, town employees, so a two-person household with two children, that's a four-person household, would actually qualify for some of these moderate income offerings where we're able to offer significantly enhanced incentives, specifically covering weatherization recommendations, which are insulation and air sealing, as well as a really robust incentive of 80% of the installed of the costs to switch from electric, oil, or propane for heat pumps. So really pairing that weatherization component, which is extremely important, the first thing anyone should do to make sure that systems are properly sized, but then really kind of supporting electrification. That moderate income demographic can really benefit from these programs. So those links are posted now, and if there's any other questions, happy to answer.
Thanks, Brianna. I had another thought on energy equity programs. Vineyard Wind, I believe, said that they were going to install battery systems that would benefit low-income consumers, and I believe it talked to the Compact at some point about it, but I don't know if either of you would know where that stands. And then the other project is that I believe residents in Yarmouth, low-income residents, will have access to some low-cost solar power from a project that Eversource is doing. So if you guys have information on those programs.
On the Vineyard Power front, I don't have specific information on the battery program that you're speaking of, Chris.
Okay.
But we do have 3 education grant awardees. So the faith-based network that Susan mentioned, Pleasant Bay Community Boating also was one of our education grant awardees, as well as Vineyard Power. So they each received education grants from the Compact, and on Cape, the faith-based network and Pleasant Bay Community Boating also received funding from National Grid for those program offerings. Vineyard Power was another education grant awardee that was a CLC fund. So they are out there promoting programs, providing education to customers. On the other part of the solar component with Yarmouth, I'm not familiar. I don't know, Mariel, if you have any information on that.
I do, yes. So the Compact submitted, I think we submitted a comment in that docket. And we have had conversations with Eversource. I've looked through the docket, not in great detail, but I did read through Eversource's filing. And my understanding is that they what they've proposed, which is to build a solar canopy and battery at their facility in Yarmouth, on Willow Street. They would sell the revenue from the solar and battery and participating in the forward capacity market. They would use that revenue as bill credits for, my understanding is, low income customers living in EJ census block groups within Yarmouth. We did confirm with Eversource that those bill credits would be available to customers regardless of who their power supplier is. So if they are on Cape Light Compact supply, they would be able to get those bill credits if they met the criteria. And I guess that's really the extent that I know about it.
Thanks, Mariel. Well, that Susan might be of interest for your program, is the access to that. So
Yep.
There's a question on the chat. Does the Cape Light Compact pay the same amount of power from my PV system produces in excess the same as what it charges when I use more? It's a net metering question, Mariel. I'm not sure if Don, if you want to verbalize that, if Mariel needs more detail, but I'll let you try, Mariel.
Yeah, basically, my 5.4 kilowatt photo system on the roof produces more electricity generally than what Eversource charges me. And what I'm wanting to know is, they charge me a certain amount per kilowatt when I use more than what I produce. My question is, what do they pay me when I produce more than what I use?
That is a good question. Do you know if if your system is enrolled in the SMART program, or if it's an SREC 1 or an SREC 2 system?
It's a 12-year-old system, so I think it's a what you call
Pre-SREC, maybe.
Yeah, it sounds like it's, yeah, maybe SREC 1. So it sounds like your system, you would be receiving net metering credits for any excess generation that you're exporting to the grid. And the value of a net metering credit, to the best that I remember, is basic service plus transmission, transition, and distribution. So it's not the full retail rate. So essentially, if you were to add up the supply and all of the distribution charges, it wouldn't, what you're receiving as your net metering credit isn't that full rate, but it is a pretty significant portion of those rates.
For, if I may, for example, my last bill from Eversource showed me a credit of literally $1,001. And I'm wondering, that will this go on and grow forever? How do I take advantage of that?
So this definitely isn't something that Cape Light Compact does. So this is just kind of me speaking, but it sounds like perhaps it would be worth using a Schedule Z to transfer some of your net metering credits to a friend or a family member, somebody that would appreciate or would be willing to have some kind of agreement with you to take advantage of those excess net metering credits. And so you can, I believe, do that through Eversource using what's called a Schedule Z, where you assign those credits to another account.
Yes, I'm already exploring that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Don. Good to hear your voice. Mariel, I have a question for you. So the compact offers that 1% additionality, or Class 1 New England Recs agreement right now, and its price is substantially below the Eversource rate at present. Some of the other community aggregations in the state also have rates that are substantially below current rates, and they have much higher percentages of additional Class 1 content. So I guess the obviously contracts are signed at different times, and there's all kinds of timing issues that result in whatever rates are today versus whatever contracts were signed years ago. Or but to what extent is there discussion amongst the compact in purchasing perhaps a higher level of Class 1 resources?
Yeah, so that's a good question, and you're absolutely right that a lot of the pricing discrepancy that we're seeing at the moment is due to the timing. So basically, when those aggregations went out and signed their contract, I know that we're seeing in the Globe a lot. It feels like, and getting a lot of phone calls about municipal aggregation because Boston's rate right now looks really good compared to Eversource's rate, and they signed that contract, I think, in either 2020 or 2021. So when markets were significantly lower than what they are now. And so that's really playing into the difference in price and how they are able to offer a great price with a higher renewable percentage than we are. We do discuss renewable percentage and the amount of Class 1 RECs in our power supply product versus the amount of voluntary earth error RECs in our power supply product with the board periodically. And at the moment, the kind of the feeling of the board is that affordability is really important to residents on the Cape. We have a lot of retired residents, people living on fixed income, and we need to balance that affordability with the renewable content. And of course, the renewable content is very important to the board. And that is why we are 1% above the Class 1 RPS. It's also why we have the Class 1 RECs, and why we're really excited about the Farmington PPA. But so it is something that we discuss. At this point, I think right now is a really hard time to increase the renewable percentage, because you can see if you look at our CLC local green 50 or 100 rate, what adding that additional amount of Class 1 RECs kind of does to the rate. It increases it, and with rates at this point already being high, I think that's a tougher conversation to have now than when our rates were 10.7 cents a couple summers ago.
Thanks, Mariel. Walter, you had a question?
I did. Thanks, Chris. And thank you, Mariel, for a very interesting presentation. I just wondered to what extent how well the Cape is doing in terms of transitioning to electric. What's sort of your rate of penetration, market penetration, in terms of assessments and actually people buying into the credits in terms of the overall market?
What do you mean by the credits? I'm sorry.
I mean that people who have been assisted by the program and then by the subsidized aggregate rate. How many customers do you have?
So when you say the program,
Subscribers.
are you referring to our energy efficiency program? And
No, not the energy. The different rates that you showed that show up on different ratepayers' bills. How many people are getting those bills showing that they're participating in one of these programs or receiving benefits from them?
So our power supply program serves about 150,000 customers on the Cape out of, I think, about 205,000 customers on the Cape and Vineyard.
Thank you.
And what's the uptake on the 50 and 100% green? I know the numbers aren't great, but
They are not great. You are correct. I think we have about 70 to 80 customers. It kind of waffles between around there. So it isn't great. We were, when rates were lower, when I first started, I've only been here for a year and a half. We did have a CLC local green marketing campaign. We did get a few more customers through that marketing campaign. That's kind of paused now and been replaced with a campaign, a price mitigation marketing campaign, I'd call it.
right. So I guess one way to look at it is that some of the other aggregations are much higher percentages, but if the compact even went from 1% additional to 3% or 5%, that would increase clean energy access in a big way for a lot of people at a relatively modest expense, I think, over the entire aggregation. So maybe now is not the best time to look at it, but I think it's a useful way of showing the Cape's commitment to supporting new renewables. Obviously, the Earth Era Trust is a different approach and has paid off with the Farmington project. Does any of that money, I guess it's controlled by NextEra, so it would not go to offshore wind projects ever?
I don't think so. It would go to a NextEra owned and built project. What we've discussed with them has been solar. I don't think they have any plans of going into offshore wind at this point.
Anybody else in the audience have questions about and the energy efficiency programs offered by the compact or renewable energy purchasing through the compact?
So I had a question, Chris. Mariel, I was wondering what the class 1 RECs are required now, because your basic your basic plan asked for 1% more. So what is it now, and is it creeping up slowly?
Yes, so in 2022, it was 20% class 1. For 2023, it will be 22%. And then I think it increases another 2%. And then beyond that, it increases 3% a year. I think between 2025 and 2027 or 2029, the RPS regulations were just updated like last week. And
Okay.
so the percentage is going to be increasing by 3% in those later years now. So it's ramping up pretty quickly, I would say.
And who decides how fast it goes up? Is it the TCU?
It is the Massachusetts Department of Energy Resources, or it's DOER's regulation, but I believe that the increase might have been mandated by legislation.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
So speaking of legislation, Massachusetts a couple of years ago passed the sort of standard setting Clean Peak standard, the first program like it in the country that is designed to incentivize reduction or elimination of the use of the sort of dirtiest, highest polluting plants at the highest price periods of the year, the ones that burn, distillate oil, jet fuel. Is the compact's aggregation program complying with the Clean Peak standard in 2023? I understand it didn't in 2022.
Yep, that's a good question. So there is language in the Clean Peak regulation that for retail electric suppliers who signed a contract before January 1st, 2020, they don't need to comply with the Clean Peak under that contract term. If the contract's extended, you do need to. So currently, CLC is not complying with the Clean Peak in through the term of our original agreement with NextEra, which is through the end of 2023. In 2024, we will be complying with Clean Peak. And our municipal load, the municipal contract, is complying with Clean Peak.
Thanks for that. So just so people understand that that's a change of law provision that allows the supplier NextEra to be exempt from a tighter environmental restriction. And it happens with a lot of new laws that come into place. If you have an existing contract, you are exempt. But the supplier also has a choice of whether or not to comply. And I guess I would say, the compact also could request that the supplier comply with the Clean Peak standard, like every other supplier in the state is supposed to, in order to reduce use of high emitting generators. So I guess I would throw that out there to the group if that's an idea we're interested in. I think these talks are useful in having experts come in, but also they give us ideas for advocacy. So I'll throw that out there. And also, just Walter, did you have your hand raised again, or was that for the?
I did. That's a great
Yeah.
idea, Chris, though. That's an excellent point and very interesting. I guess I just wanted to ask sort of a thought question to Mariel about, given the ambitious goals that the state has set for reduction in the transition, how is Cape Light lifting its game to get more traction on these issues?
That's a really good question. I think one of the things that we're doing, that we just did was sign the MOU with Commonwealth Wind in order to try to get a slice of that wind. We think that would be really valuable. And we're always looking for opportunities to sign PPAs for energy and RECs from renewable facilities in New England. What's really great about that is that it can be scheduled into the renewable energy can be scheduled into our account at ISO New England and actually like settled against our customers' load at ISO New England. So we really can say that we're using that renewable energy, which I think is a great thing. And it's something that I don't think any other municipal aggregators are doing. Purchasing Class 1 RECs is definitely a good thing. It drives the demand for new renewable projects, and it's something that is pretty simple to do. It's somewhat expensive, but it's possible. But I think that something that's really unique about the compact is the PPA that we have with Farmington and the fact that we're hoping to sign a PPA with Commonwealth Wind.
But things like enhanced a support system for electric vehicles isn't part of your mandate?
At this point, I don't think that it's something that we've really discussed. I know that, and Brianna, please jump in if I'm mistaken, but I think we've discussed the possibility of having a demand response program for electric vehicle charging. To my knowledge, that's really the only discussions at this point that we've had around electric vehicles. I know that some of our towns are working on electric vehicles. I've spoken with a couple of our board members about how their towns could get EV charging installed in their town, how to take advantage of the Eversource rebates for installing EV chargers. So it is something that we're thinking about, but I'm not sure at this point if we have or are planning to have any programs to be a leader in the EV space.
Similarly, I mean, are you thinking about resilience efforts at sort of like microgrid levels in communities to weather storms, using battery backup systems at, say, emergency centers and the like?
Also a good question. We did just propose to the DPU for third or fourth time our Cape and Vineyard electrification offering, which would provide solar PV, heat pumps, and to a select number of customers, about 25% of customers, battery storage. That's not really a microgrid, though. That would just be for individual customers. Again, I guess I'm not sure. To my knowledge, we haven't had really discussions around microgrids or big backup batteries. I know that CVEC, the Cape and Vineyard Electric Cooperative, is working on a battery at DY High School. That facility is used as a shelter during outages, and so that's something that the compact. We have a seat on the board of CVEC. We founded CVEC years ago.
Yeah, I guess, Walter, I might say that the compact is not a utility, and some of those things are utility-driven efforts. And the compact, if it wanted to push more in that direction, it would need a push from the grassroots up to the board to become, more of a distribution type utility that would be also an aggregator. And I think that's a great concept, but beyond our scope tonight. We're at almost 8 o'clock, and I want to take a minute to thank Mariel for her time tonight, and her presentation and her addressing of the questions. Also, Brianna, if you have energy efficiency questions, go after Brianna. She's going to answer them for you. Brianna, just so you know, that question I had about Harwich Junior Theater on the garage door, yes, it got resolved, and thanks again for your help on that.
Glad to hear, Chris.
Yeah,
Thanks so
so
much.
yeah, the compact is an incredible resource, and really is the leading agency in addressing climate change on the Cape through its energy efficiency programs. But also power supplies plays an important role. And I think Mariel, picked out that opportunity with Commonwealth Wind as a chance to really, not just buy RECs, but have delivered power. Actually, in this case, it would be on the physical path and the contract path, and that would be fantastic, because that's sort of the ideal situation for a local utility, is to have its own power purchased and generated locally. So that's a great opportunity for the future. On that note, anybody have any final thoughts? Go ahead, but I want to excuse you all because it's almost 8 o'clock. All set?
Great. Well, thank you so much, everybody. I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you all.
Thanks again.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks.